G'day from Brisbane. Today has been one heck of a day, hasn't it? Our emotions have been all over the place, from shock at what we were watching this morning to fear about what could have happened, relief that it didn't, and a sense of fear that will this stuff happen again? The reality of history and its huge tectonic shifts and its huge swing moments is pretty incredible. In the hours and hours and reams of things that have been said since the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Somebody was explaining that, for those of you who know your history, the event that started World War I was an assassination. The assassination only took place because a car took the wrong turn. President Kennedy ended up dying because the driver of his car slowed down when the first shots started ringing in Texas. And today, as we've all been doing the sums and thinking, and I don't know about you, but starting to work it out physically, the difference is less than a centimetre when it comes to the story we talk about tonight versus the tragedy that would have happened. Remember, of course, that Donald Trump was speaking directly to the crowd and then he turned. It was only a couple of seconds after turning that the shot is taken, and obviously it hits his ear, not the back of his head. It's been a wild day. Now, all of us who've been watching Trump for a while, regardless of whether you are the most MAGA amongst us, a never-Trumper in the centre-right of politics, or somebody who has had Trump derangement syndrome since he came down the escalator all those years ago. Secretly, not so secretly, quietly or not so quietly, have, of course, all feared of a day like today. However, thankfully, because of that much of a difference and the way that his head turned, the defining image of today is the image that will ring out on front pages around the world and that will be remembered way beyond the natural life of the 45th and potentially 47th president. The idea that any of us would have reacted as he reacted in that moment is, of course, extraordinary. You've all seen the footage of what took place. You've all heard the long, painful seconds in and around it. There are many questions about part of the security preparation, not necessarily the response. But let me try to give you a couple of extra details that maybe you haven't caught up with today that help put all of this into a bit of a better setting as we all try to work out what the hell happened today. Of course, it happened at a Trump rally like any other Trump rally. This one in the deep red part of a state called Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is one of the 6 states that either Trump or Biden absolutely must win to be able to get to the presidency. I would suggest that Pennsylvania is right up there in the top 2 states that you need to win to get to the presidency. Butler, Pennsylvania, as you can see, is nowhere near Philadelphia, which is the big Democrat city. Instead, this is the hardcore MAGA district. The map that you can see there is from the Financial Times in the United Kingdom. It also gives a sense of the red area where the president was, and, thankfully, a site that will not be as infamous as a book depository in Dallas, Texas, but could well have been by millimetres, was this raised area where the person who took the shot took a couple of shots and then, of course, was taken down by the people who returned fire, and thank goodness that that person is dead. It's 9 o'clock right now on the east coast of Australia. I'm bringing you the show, of course, from the temporary man cave here in Brisbane. My plan was for holidays tonight to be with the family, but for the most obvious of reasons, a special edition of the program tonight will be joined by the man who would have been here in my absence, James Morrow, who's got plenty to say about all of this. Chris Kenny is here. We will have Joe Hockey, who is going to be in New York on his way to the Republican convention, where Donald Trump, of course, we've formally nominated and ironically will be given even greater Secret Service protection Annalise Nielsen will join us as well, Kristen Stewart from the United States, and a whole lot more. Now, the reason I state the time is that breakfast television is, of course, starting in the United States, and we are starting to get a little bit more information. The most important piece of information that I hope comes our way in the next 60 minutes is that I can tell you who, apart from the gunman, is the other person who is dead in this situation. I'll get to that in a moment. But first, 5 things that we need to tell you to bring you fully up to date, to know what is what and what is just the speculation in and around this incredibly bizarre day in global history, and specifically the history of the life of Donald John Trump. Number 1, thankfully the president is okay. He was taken to hospital. He came out of hospital. He then flew home on his private plane. He ended up in New Jersey. That's where he wakes up this morning. The expectation was that he only got to bed about 5 hours ago. He's been checked over for obvious signs of physical consequences as to what's happened. No doubt the trauma and having to deal with that is going to be something that is going to play out, hopefully not before our eyes, but clearly is something he's going to have to deal with. I want to read again from what he wrote, not a spokesperson, he wrote via Truth Social, his preferred social media. It's a little lengthy because that's the way he likes to write, but still. The thing that's amazing about Trump is, just like we saw with the blood running down his face, that we saw what emotion he was feeling. There was no confusion. He wasn't trying to hide anything. He stood up and said, "Fight, fight." I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all of law enforcement for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler in Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed. Of course, the bullet that was supposedly for Trump ended up killing somebody else and did so instantly. Again, I've got a bit more on that in a moment or two for you. Nothing is known at this time about the shooter, who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong. Then I heard a whizzing sound and a couple of shots. I immediately felt the bullet ripping through my skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realised what had happened. God bless America. Unbelievable, right?